This is your More at 4 on WMBD News.
Well, we're keeping a close eye on happenings in D.C. with some major moves with potential in tax reform and in healthcare. And joining us now from our D.C. Bureau is Jessica Smith. The Senate passed a budget resolution last week which is supposed to open the door potentially for tax reform. What does this mean, and what exactly would that tax reform plan entail?
You're right. The Senate did pass its budget last week, and now the House is considering it. The House had already passed their budget, then the Senate passed one. Now they have to come together and agree. And the whole point of this budget is to lay the groundwork for tax reform, because it kicks off a process that allows Republicans to pass tax reform with a simple majority. They won't need a single Democratic vote. So that's really key in getting this tax reform bill done. We know the president is going to be on Capitol Hill this week talking to lawmakers about this. He really wants to get this tax reform bill done by Christmas. That's his goal. That's the Republican leadership's goal. Some lawmakers I'm talking to are a little skeptical that it can get done by the end of the year, but we'll be watching.
And switching over to health care, there's a plan, a bipartisan plan that's been making its way around the circuit. The president seems to be going back and forth in his support for it. What can you tell us about that plan, and what is the likelihood that it could find some traction down there in D.C.?
Right, this is the Alexander Murray bill. The goal is to stabilize the health insurance markets after Republicans failed to repeal and replace Obamacare. Now, this bill would continue subsidy payments to health insurance companies. They're called CSR payments. These payments help reduce the cost of health care for low-income people. But President Trump decided to end those CSR payments. Some people say it's sabotage. He's trying to show that the Affordable Care Act isn't working by hurting the Affordable Care Act. So now these payments are ending, and everyone really agrees that this could cause chaos in the insurance market. So this bill would continue those payments, and to get more conservatives on board who might be skeptical about helping the Affordable Care Act, it also adds in flexibility for states to opt out of certain Obamacare requirements. So some conservatives are really skeptical about this deal, but we know 12 Republican lawmakers are on board with it right now. But the question is, will Senator McConnell bring it to the floor if the president does not support it?
Absolutely. And as I was saying, this week or last week, it seemed like the president was going back and forth, which definitely is something to keep an eye on. Switching gears also now to a bill that has been passed along, or at least presented by two Illinois senators, Dick Durbin and Tammy Duckworth. They have a proposal that will go against a plan from Trump, a decision that he recently made. What can you tell us about that, and what are they trying to do?
Well, you'll remember a few weeks ago, President Trump decided to roll back that Obamacare mandate that employers must provide coverage for free birth control. He decided to roll that back and give employers an option to decide they weren't going to do that. They could opt out if they had a religious or a moral objection to birth control. Well, the bill that Senators Durbin and Duckworth are working on with dozens of other Democratic lawmakers would essentially just block that move. So it would require employers to go back to that Obamacare requirement that they provide free birth control coverage. About 40 Democratic lawmakers on the House and Senate have signed on to that, so we'll be watching to see if that gains any traction.
All right. Well, as always, Jessica Smith from our D.C. Bureau, we thank you for joining us and keeping us up to date with everything that's going down